The difference is I I shine lights and I help people to understand more about themselves in order to navigate better. A therapist would really work on all those things and explore deeper, as opposed to just learning more of the lay of the land, let's call it, and learning to navigate the lay of the land that they live in, their inner world.
Welcome back to Curiosity Class, the podcast where we break down complex topics into easy to understand ideas and bite-sized pieces. My name is Jeff Album, and I've been a curious person my entire life. Inspired by Albert Einstein's quote, "If you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well enough," we aim to make learning accessible and engaging. On this show, we're going to bring you experts from various fields, ranging from personal finance to physics, to help you understand everything from 401ks to how airplanes fly. So let's dive in and satisfy our curiosity together. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Curiosity Class. Today, I'm joined by my new good friend, Dovid, who's going to be talking to us about performance coaching. Dovid, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jeff.
I appreciate you being here, man.
Looking forward.
So yeah, let's just dive right in. So I want you to give kind of everyone a quick background of who you are and how you got to where you are today. Small question.
Sure, yeah. The small questions usually get the biggest answers. Right. Okay, so my journey began as a classroom teacher. I was teaching for nearly 10 years, and I became an assistant principal through really putting my nose where it wasn't supposed to be, where it was like, oh, I have some things that we can do to maybe help with discipline and help with, how we address and work with the children that are in the school. And it was an all boys school, and the boys were a very rowdy bunch. And it was, I would say, a little bit old school, the way that they approached discipline. It was very much firm and, holding the children in a box. And they were like, you have to conform to this box or else. Right. And that's very challenging for children and adults, of course. Usually the children that's the most challenging for are the most successful adults. And it's so that was where I really, I guess I'll say, I found my groove. I was at that point teaching in sixth grade, middle school boys. If any teachers or former teachers are listening, like that's a fun grade. And it was challenging. And then the epiphany that I had was, if I actually showed that I cared, they were so much more open and so much more willing to work.
The students,
and so much more willing to work and so much more willing to be a part of what we were trying to accomplish in the classroom. So whenever anything happened, I had two rules for myself. One is that, and I communicated this to the students constantly, nonstop. It was, I'm here to keep you safe, and I'm here to listen. So if there was a fight, I would immediately get in between them, and then I would make them work it out. And we would work it out, just conflict resolution, very high level conflict resolution. Like, I would teach them the format for how to, say your feelings and work through things. And about 2-3 months into this experiment that I was having, the classroom was just quieter. Students were just doing the work. And that was the only change that I did. I said, I am going to be here to keep you safe, and I am going to listen. So whenever they had yeah, go ahead.
And so prior to that, you kept everything else the same, and you just decided, okay, anytime a conflict comes up, I'm just going to repeat these two rules that I have.
Yeah, into myself, and then model it, and then repeat it afterwards and say, this is why we're doing what we're doing, because I'm here to keep you safe and I'm here to listen. So if there was a question that was off topic, which is 3 to 4 times per hour, right, in sixth grade, I addressed it. I didn't say, oh, we're not talking about that. I was like, oh, that's a great question. Let's talk about it. And we would go off on tangents, and they loved it. And they learned a lot because they learned what they were interested in. They were asking me questions that was interesting to them. And we had a blast. And when the year ended, the students themselves, they decided that they were going to have a weekly class with me. So they organized themselves, going out of 6th grade, going into 7th, organized themselves. This was before smartphones. And they or at the beginning of it for the 6th grade level children. And they organized themselves. They invited me. They made the barbecues, and they every single week during the summer we had a class, and it was the same class. I would come, we would just chat, and it was so amazing. And then I became the assistant principal for that same school, and the middle school boys in that school were a bigger handful as because they grew older and they were still being, kept in a box. And that class, though, as they got into 7th grade and into 8th grade, whenever they got into a fight that they didn't know how to resolve on their own, they would come running to me and say, "We need help. I want him to tell me his feelings." It was hilarious. And they were the calmest 7th and 8th grade class that ever went through that school. It was incredible. And people were just like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm just being interested and being curious. I want to learn more about them." And that led me down that path where I became a principal. And then I was really training the teachers to really, and I went to a school that was very much aligned with that mindset, my previous school that I was in. And we had a really great time working with the children. And we had children that came in that were really unsuccessful in their previous schools. And they came in and was like a switch flipped. And they were like, "What?" Yeah,
when you
go
moved to
ahead.
this new school, was it the same age? So still middle school boys?
Elementary school. It was full
Elementary
elementary. It
school?
was K
Okay.
through 8. Yeah. And kids would come in and people would say, like, "What are you doing? What are you guys doing?" And we were like, "Nothing. I mean, nothing. We're just interested. We just want to hear what they have to say. We just want to work with them." And they buy in. And it's so interesting that adults are sort of like, not sort of, it's like known, big children, right? And children are little adults, or however you want to look at it. So I just show interest in what people have to say, and people are able to now see themselves and see what they're really trying to accomplish. And all I'm here is to guide people to what they really want. I'm just interested. I'm curious. I love the name of your podcast, and that was really like key me. And I was like, wow, I like it. Curiosity is really the key for everything. Um, I actually just made a post about it, not even related, maybe subconsciously, on LinkedIn, how curiosity is really the key. You want to work on team building, you want to work on vision, you want to work on strategy, you want to work on, anything, relationships. You just got to be curious, right? If you're not curious, then you shut down the connection, you shut down the relationship, and you shut down any growth that's really possible because it becomes adversarial. So it's really important to just really stay curious. So I love the name. It's such a good one. And then I can see from your face and from the way that you ask questions that you're really living it. So you're really lucky, because not a lot of people really get to live it, and you do. So it's pretty cool.
I
Anyway,
appreciate that. Thank you.
so that was pretty much my journey. So when I was the principal, so then I started working with vendors and with parents, much more, and with community members, and with
What do you mean vendor for a school? Like,
so people that sold us things, people that potentially would support the school, uh, people that had any interactions with the school from a commercial standpoint, from a business standpoint. And I would
gotcha.
just chat with people, and I would be like, "Yo, how's it going? How's business, and what are you up to?" And invariably, people have challenges. Everybody has challenges. I have challenges. Everyone has challenges with whatever they're working on. And I would listen, and I would ask curious questions and try to learn more about where the person's coming from, what the person is trying to accomplish. And they would be like, "Wow, that was great. You really are so helpful." And in the beginning, I was like, I didn't do anything. I just asked questions. But then I realized that is really helpful. And it was the same way with the children. They would come in all upset, they got in trouble, or they got into a fight, and I would just be like, "What happened?" And just asking what happened, but not in an accusatory way, like, "What happened? How could this happen in our school?" It was more like, "What happened? Just let's talk." I would just lean back in my chair, and I would just be like, "Let's talk." And they would just spill the beans, whatever, everything that happened. I'll be like, "Okay, so what should we do about that?" And they would come up with great solutions, and they would go back to class, ready to rumble. And it's the same way with adults. You have a challenge that you're facing, whether it's in business, whether it's in relationships, whether it's personal, whether it's strategic, whatever it is. And once you're able to really hold space for whatever the challenge is, and then align it with the goals, like, what are we going to go from here? What are you trying to accomplish here? And people are very resourceful. Like, people have
Mm-hmm.
a lot of energy, a lot of power that's inside them. And that really is more of, this is, I guess, where the question might come, what's the difference in coaching and psychology? Um, it's a very, very common question that I get asked, especially with like the way that I approach it. It's very, very holistic, I would call it. On my end, it's more pragmatic because I actually have a lot of experience in my own world, in my own life with therapy. I've been in
Mm-hmm.
therapy for almost 6 years now, straight, and it's been transformative for me. And I've also been coached, and I see that everyone has their own way, and therapists have their own way. I've been to many different therapists, and I've been to different coaches, and I see everyone really, when there's truth and the truth is trying to be communicated, um, it's really the product of the person's experiences. So the truth is the truth. It's inalienable, right? If that's a word. It's not able to be changed. Now, how do you wrap that truth? How do you present that truth? How do you share that truth with someone else? That's through the lens of your experience. If you
Hmm.
found truth, then you can share that, and someone will, like, you'll hear it and you'll be like, hmm. Usually that's the response, like, huh, right? Like, I have to process that more. I have to think about that. Um, and it could come from so many different angles. So whether it's in, one of my favorite modalities for therapy is IFS, right? So IFS is really, really deep. It gets really deep.
What
Have
is
you heard
what
of
is
IFS?
IFS? No, what does that stand
So
for?
IFS is a modality called internal family systems.
Okay.
It's based on previous family system modalities. We're not going to get into that, but the basic premise is that, and my wife hates when I get all into this, but the basic premise is that you have a self energy. It's your power. It's not able to be influenced. It's just pure. It's creative, courageous, curious, uh, lots of C's, and compassionate and connective. It's that's just how it's presented. And then you have different parts of you that actually do things. And whenever somebody gets hurt, so then these parts step in and they block access to your self energy, and they take over and they do things. And that usually
So
is a cycle.
can you give
Yeah,
an example? So like something's going on, like
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. So you'll have, and everyone's different, so everyone will react differently. People might even
sure.
react in opposite ways. But a very classic case would be, let's say someone goes through a very rough time in their childhood. They don't have a lot of money, and that means they don't have a lot of food in their house. So you might have one person that will hoard food throughout the rest of their life, unless they, like,
Mm,
face it, where they'll, like, not throw away any leftovers. They'll
mm-hmm.
pack their freezers, buy new freezers. I know somebody I was working with packs his free bought new freezers to pack up with food. It was very,
Yeah,
very, very it's very challenging, in the family, because you're just buying new freezers to pack with food because of that. And
right.
on the other hand, you might have somebody that's going to be like, okay, I'm just not going to eat, right? I mean, everyone's different, so just the way they react, and that's not growth oriented. That's not connective. That's not curious. That's not trying to learn. That's just making sure that it won't happen again. That's what this part
Right.
is here. And that comes into play in business as well. You'll have someone that, gets burned, whether it's through an employee, whether it's through the way that they grew up in life, and they might not trust people, right? There was someone that I was working with that didn't trust any of their employees at all to do any work. And it took a very long time for them to start trusting. It was a lot of work. And slowly, slowly, and obviously there's a lot of, the journey is never direct trajectory
Sure.
upwards. It's
Sure.
up and down and backwards and sideways. And it could be very frustrating if you're not really committed. If you're committed, it's still frustrating, but at least you know that you're on the right, in
You're
the
on the
right,
path.
yeah, on the path. Exactly. So I don't know if I answered your question or not. Did I?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
Oh,
and also
okay.
I want to highlight that, because we were on like your educational track, and so we ended as a principal of the school. But then I want people to understand that you're not a psychologist. You're a coach, right?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
exactly. So I transitioned into a coach because people were telling me, "Wow, you're really helpful," and you should do this more often and full time and helping more people, and people, you have a lot to share. And I was like, I'm busy. I'm a principal. I'm busy. I have to take care of a lot of stuff, and I'm just not available for that stuff. But slowly, I started really taking it more seriously, working with people on the side, and it was so gratifying for me. It was gratifying for them and productive for them, and it was incredible. And over the past, and I would say it's already almost 6 months that I've been 5 months that I've been doing this full time, and it's a blast. I love getting to meet new people and taking on more clients than now that I'm able to, and it's a lot of fun.
Dude, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Something I think a lot of people will be curious about is, how did you know when it was time to make the leap to go full time? So you have like this very stable career, and you're doing this other thing it's gratifying and it's fun, but it's on the side. How did you know it was like, okay, this is the time? Like, I'm gonna go for it.
It's a really good question. For me, it was a confluence of many different things. I was actually not planning on going full time a few months ago. I was planning on doing it in a year from doing another school year. That was my plan.
Okay.
I planned things out far. Like, I'm like, here's my 3-year plan. It could change, but I know internally that I still have to set up the school this way. I have to set up myself this way, set up my finances that way. And I was like, I need one more year. And then we decided to move. And the decision to move was making it that working at that school was not going to work out. So we're like, if we decide to move, then I have to accelerate this decision. So I decided, if you're going to dive in, you just got to dive in. And it's been very gratifying. It's fantastic. Thank God, it's been amazing. And I would say that waiting sounds good, and it makes you feel good because you're like, I have more to do to set myself up, but you're really not going to be ready or fully invested or whatever you want to call it the next year or the next month or the next 2 years from now. Just do what you need to do. Just jump in, and you'll flail away a little bit, and you'll find your way. And as long as you know, as we said before, as long as you know that, like, this is the journey, you have to enjoy the journey. If you're not enjoying the journey, if you're like, I need to get there, whatever there is, whatever my goal is, then it's very frustrating, potentially. Some people might hit it off right in the beginning. Some people might take a longer amount of time to, get the ball rolling. But whatever it is, as long as you're enjoying the journey, then it's just fun. Like, you're like, for me, like, I get to meet new people, I get to fill up my calendar with, different types of people, and meet so many different industries, people from so many different industries. Because the people that I work with I'm not like, oh, I'm going to only work with people that are, in real estate, or only working with educators, or only working with whatever, because my experience is more of the mindset and the performance side, which can translate into anything. So it's more of, if you're looking to, build upon what you've accomplished so far, that's what I'm here for. So you could be anyone. So for me, I get to meet so many different people, and for me, that's fun. And
for sure,
ironically, if you would ask me 6 to 8 months ago, like, oh, would you like meeting new people? I'll be like, meeting new people? Absolutely not. I'm a hardcore introvert. Yeah, I'm an introverted person. It might seem otherwise right now, but I'm a really, really introverted person by nature. And I've really been enjoying this transition for myself, just becoming a different kind of person also. And it's been fun. I just keep saying that, but it really is.
So do you feel like after you have like a full day of chatting with new people, or even just chatting with people in general, you need time to just decompress and be alone and not talk to anybody?
It's a great question, because sometimes yes and sometimes no. And I've done a lot of internal, learning,
reflection,
like learning more about myself, to try to find out more. Figuring things out is a trap that people fall into. We could go on, it's a different tangent, but find out more about myself. We don't want to figure things out. We want to find out more, discover more about myself. That what is it that makes me want to decompress, and what is it that makes me excited? Like this conversation right now, I'm not going to walk away from the conversation and be like, oh my God, I just need a break. It's not how I'm going to
Right.
walk away from this conversation. I'm going to walk away from this conversation, full of energy and
Right.
excited.
Right.
And it just depends on
So
who I'm talking to.
so what is that? Because I think about this all the time. Like I usually describe it as like either filling your cup or draining your cup, right? Like sometimes you walk away and you're just overflowing. You're so stoked. You're so pumped. You just want to tell everybody and you're on fire. Other times
Mhm.
it's just like, that was different.
Exactly. Yes. Different.
So
Exactly.
so what is that? Is that an energy thing? Is that a person thing? Like what is that?
How deep do we want to get right now?
Deep.
Deep.
Dive in.
Okay. Okay.
Dive
We
in.
could dive in a little. So it's definitely an energy thing, right? So
Okay.
people react to other people's energies. They don't react to what people are saying. They don't react to what people are doing. They're reacting to the energy behind the action or behind the words.
And
So
so
if
even
yeah,
break that down a little bit more. Like what is energy? And sound as woo woo and new age as you possibly can. It's my thing.
I don't know if I'm new age, but I'll say what I believe and we'll
Or
see if it
old age.
resonates.
What? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So energy is the intention behind what you're trying to accomplish.
Okay.
Um,
Ooh, I
so
like
if
that.
thanks. So if you're trying to come across curious, right, you can ask the same question. Like I mentioned it before, but if you say like, what happened, right? You could be like, hey, what happened? Or you could be like, what happened? Right? Even just a change of tone. But I can even pretend to be curious, but not really be curious, and the energy will be communicated, and the person will be on guard. A
Mm,
curious energy, and any energy that is self-led, which is what we spoke about before, if you're going to be curious, connected, compassionate, courageous, all of the C's that they talk about in IFS, that's how my lens is pragmatic. I don't get deep into like the resolving all the things that were happening. It's more of what the cause is, and then we put a nice bow on it, and then if you want to deal with it and work on it, you can. Otherwise, we can move on. It's more of shining lights. So anyway, so going back to the energy, so if I ask you curiously something, or if I ask you in a compassionate way, or if I ask you in a connected way, then you'll feel more energized, like literally, like more energy. But if I ask you in a way that's trying to manage you, or if I'm criticizing you, or if I am trying to put you down, or if I'm trying to, if I have some ulterior motive there that's not simply altruistic, we'll call it, then
okay.
you will feel a little closed. You'll feel a little bit, and if that conversation continues for more than a couple of seconds, you're going to start really feeling it. And then if you have to sit through a whole conversation like that, then you'll walk away like, oh God, I need to like let go of this, take it off, like
Right.
whatever it is.
Dude, that's super interesting. And I don't know, that definitely resonates with me because I feel like sometimes you have a conversation with a friend and they're venting to you. And it's so true that you can have two people, one is venting to you kind of with the intention of they're just trying to let stuff out. They're your friend, they want you to know what's going on in their lives, and like that is actually energy filling if you're able to help that person go through something and be a sounding board, etc. And then other times people are complaining and venting and you it is draining. You're like, "Oh God, like I don't it's very negative." And so it's
Yeah.
interesting that the intention is the root there.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
If you want to lean a little bit into the psychology of it, it's if the person is trying to unburden, if he's trying to take his challenge and put it on you, that's like, oh my God. But if he's just sharing his challenge with you and saying, I'm still holding on to my challenge, it's challenging for me, I have this
Mm,
burden and I'm here to connect with you, then you're like, sure, I mean, if I want to, I'll grab the burden with you and help you out here. But if the person's just like dump 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 dump, then it's like, oh God, this is getting heavy and tiresome.
right. Right. Huh. Okay. I like that. I like that a
Yeah,
lot. So, okay. So we're on the topic of energy.
sure.
So you're saying energy is intention, right?
Yes, I would say
It's
that
the
energy is intention. And it's really it's the manifestation of your intention.
the manifestation. Okay, explain that. What does that mean?
So you can have intention and just sit, right? And depending on how in touch you are with your own self, then you might still feel like now, after a couple of years of this work, most of the time, if I walk into a room, I can start just feeling the people out. When they don't say anything to me, I don't even have to necessarily see them. I just start feeling energies. And it sounds new agey and it's crazy.
For
And if you would have
sure.
said this to me a few years ago, I've been like, okay, that's just hogwash. That's just not possible. And and it really is very possible. And I could feel it in myself even as I'm talking right now. Like I can feel certain just nuances of what I'm saying. I'm like, I'm trying to push a little hard here. I'm not pushing, or I'm not being what's the word?
Altruistic?
Slipping. Altruistic. It wasn't the word I was trying to say, but that authentic, right? Authenticity
Authentic,
is
okay.
really what people connect with, right? So I'm here trying to be as authentic as I can. But if I say anything that's more of like trying to what's it, English today? If I'm trying to preach, or if I'm trying to say something that's like, I have to get this information out there, then it's like I'm pushing a little too hard. I don't have to do that, right? That's not really being authentic. That's just coming in with an agenda, right? So that's not
Sure.
okay. I mean, everyone has agendas, but you want to try to be as authentic as possible. So for me, it's like if I walk into a room and it's a party, or not a party, or it's whatever, a meeting, I can just start feeling who wants to be there, who doesn't want to be there, who's going to be open, who's not going to be open. And then as soon as they start talking, so then it becomes, how much do I know about myself, and how much have I harnessed all the different parts of me and all of my self energy and all of the things that I can do when I'm sitting there in the room with these people? Am I going to uh, present? Am I going to come across as someone that's authentic, that's someone that's present, someone that's curious, or whatever it is, or not? And that's really the life's work, right? That's never going to end, because as much work as you do on yourself, and no matter how deep you get, and even I'm sure with you're an entrepreneur, the more you face all your fears and antagonize the things that have got you here, you're always going to find more. You're always going to find more fears. You're always going to find more anxieties.
Right.
You're always going to find more baggage. You're always going to find more things to be like, wow, I never really knew I had this, and this is happening to me. I mean, I'm going to be a little vulnerable here, that it's happened to me recently in my personal life, where I was like, okay, I've been in therapy for years, and I'm like, I'm good, like I feel great. I'm always feeling great, and it's going great, and everything's going great. And then I just got a wham, like a slammed, like from way out of left field, with something that happened to me in my personal life. And I was just like, wow. And it opened up like a whole new section of myself, that when I was talking with my therapist, I was like, the craziest thing. Like for me, I never criticize anyone, like ever. No matter what the person does, I'm not here to criticize. I'm here to understand. I'm just curious.
Ooh.
And sometimes it irks people, because people, they want you to be on their side, or whatever it is, when they're trying to complain or something. And I'm just like, for example, like this car was blasting music. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and driving down the street, and I was walking with someone, and the person was like, what a just disgusting human being, just driving down, blasting his music. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. This kid's sleeping. And I'm just like, yeah, I mean, he should probably lower that music. It's like, yeah, but what kind of human being does that? And I'm just like, I mean, she's just not being really caring and not thoughtful at all. It's like, yeah, but how disgusting. I'm just like, yeah,
like be angrier.
Yeah. And I'm like, I get what you're saying, but like, I'm just not there. Like that's not where I'm holding right now. So I was like, for me, I was like, okay, I made it. And then like I got slammed really hard, and it opened up this whole new side of me, where I was like, where all my and this was the recent stuff that I've been working on, all my self-critic and all that really like tough talk and all the negative views, I was turning it on a certain area of myself. It was like this little part of me, a big part of me, but it was completely blocked off, like walled off. And it's like, whenever I wanted to feel critical, it was like, aim it inside, aim it there. So I literally like massacred half of myself, and not half of the parts that I had. And once they came out to play, and I was like, I don't even know what to do with myself right now. Like I wouldn't say I was depressed, but I would say like I was really, really, really close. Like I knew what I wanted and what I always liked to feel like, and I knew what I was feeling like, and I was like, this is not it. And I didn't know how to get out of it. I could not break out. And it was like that for like 2-3 weeks. And I wasn't being productive at work. I wasn't being relational at home. It was just very challenging for me for a few weeks. And I went few sessions, and it was like really, really, it took a few weeks for me to really break out of it. But I mean, thank God, I feel really good now, and I know what I'm dealing with, and I know how to navigate a little better, much better than I did 6 years ago. So like, I'm not just walking around sulking or whatever it is. But it could come up anytime. That's really the point of what I'm trying to say, and it could be really deep stuff that like you never even know that's still there. Like I was like, I'm
Right.
great, I'm good, and then there's like,
Right.
whoa, like where's that coming from? It's
Right.
massive, and so it's a journey. It's a life's journey.
And
That
when
was
you
the
said
point.
that, and when you said that you took a couple sessions, was that in therapy or was that in your coaching? Like
So
you
that
receiving
was
coach, or you receiving therapy?
it was actually very interesting because the I mean, I don't want to put anyone on blast, but the coach was the one that really instigated it and
Mm-hmm.
then sort of didn't really understand what I was trying to say. And then I was like, I can't let this out. So it was like
Yeah.
pushing it back. And I was like, but now I like overcompensated and the coach wasn't able to help me past that. And at the same time I go to therapy and in therapy I was like, this is crazy. Like I knew it was happening, but I just didn't know how to deal with it. And it took even 3 weeks, 3 sessions, was actually over a month and a half, 3 sessions in therapy to really break out. Like I knew what was going on. I knew what the challenge was. I even told my wife, I was like, this is my challenge. I need you to bear with me for a little while. Like I'm stuck. And she was like, okay, okay. But it was still very challenging and it was challenging for my business as well because like I wasn't as proactive and productive as I wanted to be. Like I really tried to be on top of my game wherever it is. So it was very challenging, and there were certain flashes where I was like able to find myself, and like let's say I was meeting with someone. So a lot of times it was when I was meeting with someone, I was able to like really like take a few deep breaths, key in, and be like, okay, I'm here, I'm present. I'm going to be one radically present and curious. What all else fails, that's what I'm being right now. And a lot of
Yeah.
times that would help. Which is actually what I recommend to people that are stuck is you just want to be curious. Like step one, be curious,
Mm.
and it really helps you break out of whatever it is. It might not stay because when you open up a can of worms, you really have to face it. Like you just have to face it, acknowledge it, shine a light on it, learn more about it, discover more, right? We don't want to figure things out. Went back to that. But you want to discover more. And when you learn more about yourself, then you're able to navigate yourself, your relationships, your business, your friends, your family, everyone so much smoother because you realize that it's really all you. And when it's all you, that means that you have ownership. That means that you're in control. You have the power. So no one else can make you feel anything. No one else can make you do anything. No one else can make you act any way. It's reactions are really powerless plays. They're powerless moves. They're not power moves, they're powerless moves. Reactions mean that you're letting the other person's energy dictate your action. You're
Right.
reacting to that. So what you want to do is break that cycle. So first thing I said, be curious. If you forgot that, then you would want to just take a deep breath, be present, feel the floor under your feet, take a deep breath, feel your breath in and out. You just want to remember, like, I am here, I am present. And when you're able to, those are two tricks, two ways to break out over there. Either to be curious, just radical curiosity, to be present, take some deep breaths, feel the ground under your feet, feel your muscles, just put your hands on your legs and just sit and just feel your body and just feel where you feel in your body. And that's another, session I do with people is we just sit and we're mindful, where we just
Mm.
explore our inner world, and you learn a lot. You really learn a lot about, you think you might think, I don't know about you, but someone might think that like they have it all figured out. They're like, yeah, I know myself. I know myself. I know everything about that I have to know. And it's really just like a facade of that their own parts are showing them like, this. And this is
Right.
what we allow you to know because this is where we're safe and comfortable. So you have
Right.
to find your way through to what you really, really want and where you really want to get to. And that will really be with curiosity, presence, and I went off on another tangent. So sorry about
I love it. Well, just, I mean, to close the loop a little bit, I feel like the
that. Yeah.
only thing that I really know is that there's so much that I don't know. Like, I don't know. I think I
Yeah.
just said no so many times. But like every time that you like, especially like when you chat with experts about something, right? They're always, I feel like the true test of an expert is when they admit how much they don't know. Like
Hmm.
immediately I trust that person 1,000 times more. If someone's like, oh, I'm an expert, I've been in this for 30 years, like I've seen it all. I'm like,
Hmm.
mm, like I I don't know about that.
Yeah, it's never ending. Nothing, it never ends because you just can always go deeper. Like
Right.
always go deeper, and the deeper you go, the more shocking it becomes with whatever
Right.
industry, whatever topic you want to get into. You get into music, you get into, I like to sing, so you get into music, you get into singing, you get into, or psychology, you get into coaching, you get into whatever it is, get into marketing, branding, whatever it is you want to get into, strategy. There's like the surface level, the Dunning-Kruger effect, the classic, this much, you think 80% of it, but then you learn a little bit more and you realize, oh my God, I know nothing. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that's basically where you have to now reconcile the fact that, like, I'm never going to know everything, but
Right.
I do know more than the people behind me, so I
Right.
can help those people. And I always still have to be striving to learn more, because once I decide I know everything, then that means my curiosity is finished. And if my
Right.
curiosity is finished, then I'm not growing. And really, life is about growth. So we always have to remember that, yes, we don't know relatively anything. Like,
Right.
I also, like you said, I love speaking to experts as well. And it's just like, I just sit there and like, wow, that is just awesome. And I try to, reconcile with the schema that I have. That's what I was doing in the beginning, where I was like, I know this way, so everything has to work with this. And then I realized what I said before was, like, when someone's coming with truth, they'll have there's so many wrappers and so many ways to present it, where it's like, I see the kernel and I see where they're coming from. So I want to understand now that perspective. And then you
Mm.
can understand another perspective and another perspective. And that gives you a lot more range. There's actually a great book. I forgot who wrote it. It's called Range, where he talks about the different schools of thought. You can learn, what's it? I don't remember the phrase. It's either a mile wide and an inch deep, or you can go deep and narrow,
Right.
right?
Right.
So he says range. If you know more topics and more angles and more perspectives, even if you don't know as much about the topic, you'll be more creative and more strategic with your decisions than if you know a lot about the topic. So he
Mm.
goes in. That's a whole book, so whatever. But it's I'm not going to tell you the whole book, but that's the premise of the book, and I thought it was really fantastic, because it resonates with me, because you can know a lot about a topic, and you can be you want to call it professional or expert or whatever it is about the topic, but if you speak to different experts, like you said, maybe from a little different perspective, where the person's like, everything that you ask the person, they'll always tie it into their perspective. When it's like,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't asking you from that perspective. And I don't think you fully grasp what I'm asking you, because I'm coming from my perspective. So
Mm.
then you'll have an expert that's like curious and is like, let me hear more about where you're coming from. And then they'll start, making connections that maybe weren't made before. And it's like, that's fascinating. And then you're like, wow, that resonates much more, because this
Right.
expert is curious and is looking from your perspective and not from
Right.
their myopic view of the matter. Does that make sense? You look a little,
Yeah.
you look a little
No, it's
uh,
I'm taking it.
pondering.
Yeah, definitely ponder. I think I gotta chew on that one a little bit more.
Okay.
But I also want to tie back to something you said before that I'm curious about. So you said
Mhm.
not figuring things out, you can figure things out.
Find, discover.
Find. Okay,
Yes.
okay. Talk to me. What is that?
Sure. So as an operator, uh, someone that manages far ahead in advance, that's me. And I'm sure there are many people that are listening here that are like that, COO types, right? And if the integrator, the one, like in the EOS, the integrator one, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That person is very logical, very thought out.
And
Has
also
to,
wait, just to back up, so that's a really good point that you made. So there's the visionary and then the integrator, right? And
yeah,
so the idea is one person is the person that has all these new ideas. They have a new idea a minute, but they have no idea how to actually implement it. The integrator is someone who can take that idea and actually do something with it, right?
yes,
Okay.
yes, exactly. And they're very different species, completely different species. If you don't learn how to communicate with each other, then you will be pulling your hair out on each other, and it's terrible. So you really want to learn how to communicate with each other. That's super important. But curiosity is a good way to get in. So definitely come with curiosity. Anyway, so
Yes.
these people, and really it's everyone. Even the visionary is like that, but they just don't realize it, because the way that they present to themselves is, I'm spontaneous and I'm not logical, but they're logical to themselves. They are logical. They've really presented to themselves how everything makes sense. It might be frustrating to them, it might be challenging for them, but it makes sense to them. It's their reality, right?
But
So
isn't that true with everyone? Like everyone thinks what they
yeah.
think is okay.
Yeah, I was saying even to the ones that you would think are being spontaneous and they're not thought out and they're not logical, they really are, but in
Got
their
it.
reality. It's a
Got it.
different
Got it. Got
reality
it.
to the integrator. But a lot of times the integrators will understand exactly what I'm saying right now very quickly because that's just how we present to ourselves, where it's
Okay.
like, I'm logical, I'm thought out, I look far ahead in advance in the future, and I am make sure that everything is planned out step by step by step by step, and there's nothing left to chance. That is very limiting. That is supremely limiting because you've now shut off every other avenue and every other angle that you can have in order to get to the next level. Because you're like, this is the way to the next level. The way that I decided with my logic. Logic is super limited. It's only what you know in your conscious mind. That is the most limited perspective that you could possibly have as a human being. Your conscious mind's way of coming up with a decision, right?
For
So,
sure.
so like that's ironic because the operator's like, I got this. Like I have my whole life planned out. I'm gonna do this and this and this and this and this, and I'm going to do it. And it's like, wow, so you just completely limited yourself to that. I mean,
Right.
I feel bad, and I would love to chat with you more about how much more you could accomplish. Yeah, but I need to do this. Okay, so now the same thing happens internally when people are faced with a feeling, they have to the beginning until they do the that mindset shift, they have to figure out why it's happening. They have to figure out what's happening. They have to like logically come up with an explanation for why that person did that or why I did that. And what that does is not fully validate what is happening because it's I need to figure this out because the subconscious mind, which is infinitely more powerful than the conscious mind, infinitely more knowledgeable than the conscious mind, infinitely more visionary than the conscious mind, infinitely more everything than the conscious mind. You have so many synapses that are going on that you don't know that are happening. And your conscious mind is just, the tiny little bubble. And you're like, I don't trust you. I have to tell you why we did what we did. So then the subconscious mind is like, oh, or we call it this part that was acting without really thinking about it, is not feeling validated. And it's like, let's take a pause. Let's come in from an outside view. Let's zoom out. Let's bring in our full energy, the energy that's not biased. It's altruistic. It just wants to grow. It wants to be connected, curious, courageous, compassionate, and all the rest. And let's just observe and report with no bias, with no, there's a great book, the inner game of tennis. It's a famous book as well.
Okay.
So I haven't spoken to him, so he doesn't know this, but I disagree with certain things that he says in there. But the main premise of what he says is a very important premise. It is just observe without criticism. That's it.
Okay.
And that is fantastic. I'll go with that till tennis, right? So I don't play tennis, but the inner game of it. So just observe your feelings. Don't judge it. Don't even put a name on it yet. Just feel it. Where is it in your body? What does it feel like? How does it present to you? It'll come in. You'll have maybe some like the introduction to the Marvel movies. It has those comic book flashes.
Yeah.
It'll some sort of feel like that. You'll have like images flitting through your head because it's trying to communicate, but it's not logical. It can't speak. Speaking, we can talk about speech later, but speaking is really just the even more limiting. It's words are the most limiting of anything because you're putting into a framework of vocabulary the conscious way that you've related to the world. So it's the next level of limitation. Anyway, so you have you're still with me?
Wait, so you're yeah, I'm still with you, but I'm trying
I just went on another
to stay
tangent.
along. So
I'm gonna come back.
okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna come back. I told you.
You sit with a feeling, you feel it in your body, you figure out where it's coming from. Okay.
Don't figure out. You just feel it.
Don't figure out.
And
Okay,
so you
just feel
figure
it.
out it's such an easy word to say, and it's such a common and natural way that we've been conditioned. It's like we need to figure things out. And it's good because you went to school, you build relationships. Those are all figuring things out. You need to figure out how to navigate the world. That's logical, right? If
Mhm.
someone is neurodivergent, they actually are told, black and white. If they're extremely divergent, they'll be like, when somebody is looking at you with his eyebrows like this, that means that they don't want to play, right? Like whatever it
Right,
is,
right,
like it's
right,
very
right,
logical. We just have done it throughout our whole life. We don't realize how logical it is. But
right,
logic is our second most important characteristic that we have outside of the self, or the most important, because it's our key to be able to communicate. It's our key to relating to the world. It's our interface between our subconscious to our world that we live in. It's logic. It's putting the subconscious into a framework and then presenting that out into the world. So
okay.
logic is super important. I'm not criticizing logic, and that's where I sort of argue with the author. I forgot his name again, but from the Inner Game of
The inner
Tennis,
game of tennis. Okay.
where he says logic is bad. So I don't want to say that much, but I would say that, I mean, maybe I would want to hear more about where he's coming from, right? We have to be curious always. And he's definitely a lot more knowledgeable than me because he's been doing this for like 50 years. So I would love to hear where he's coming from. I said, I just want to talk to him about it. So whatever it is. So logic is not bad. Logic just is. Everything is. And in fact, everything is good. All your parts and anytime that you do something and anytime that anyone does something, they're trying to do something productive. Now, it might come out extremely counterproductive or damaging, but what they're trying to do is survive. That's all they're trying to do. No matter what someone does, whether you can go to an extreme, someone that's an addict, someone that's doing that, like they're trying to just dull the pain or whatever it is. They're trying to live. They're trying to survive.
Right,
Now you're gonna
right,
say, well, that's counterproductive and damaging. But those are the tools that they have. If they
right,
learn new tools, potentially, if they're able to, get on that horse and get through that path and work on it, if they can, they will be able to get through there and not have to rely on, the mind altering substances that they fall on. So
right.
what putting that aside now, again, sorry. So when you have someone that's trying to figure everything out, that's very limiting because it's not because you're being conscious about your subconscious, and there's so much inside of you and inside of every decision that you make. So many different reasons and things came in to make this decision that you don't even know about, and you're trying to figure it out. Now you're invalidating all the reasons that are subconsciously gone that make no sense. It's like, what does a fish have to do with whatever? Like any image that comes into your head, you're gonna like, that makes no sense, or that makes no sense, and then you're like throwing away all the actual reasons, and you're like, you know what it is? It's the logical reason, which will invariably be a reinforcement of what you decided in advance. It's like,
Okay.
that's why I did it, and it's because of what I decided before. So you just
Okay,
need
wait.
a
I'm
little.
gonna I'm gonna
Go
I'm gonna
ahead.
explain it back to you to make sure I got it. You tell
Yeah.
tell me if I'm getting it. Okay, so I have a feeling. I I don't know why. I don't know what it's from. Um, but so the goal is to just feel it. So not try to figure it out, just feel where I'm feeling it, where it is in my body, etc. The images that are going to flip through my mind, like the comic book from Marvel, kind of let those wash over, let those happen. And then I don't understand the next part.
And then it'll just come to you. I mean,
What?
in the beginning,
Okay.
the reason will just come to you in a flash of, I don't want to say inspiration, but it's just like a flash of, and usually or it's just like you go smile, like a half smile is like, it can't be this, but it is this. And it's
Hmm.
like, this is the truth.
But so you're
And
saying that's not figuring it out? Like I don't understand why
no,
figuring it out is
because
not good.
figuring it out would be deciding for that voice that's inside
Oh,
of
okay.
you what it is, as
Okay, so let's
opposed
say
to
I have a
letting that voice tell you.
so to go back to, I have a feeling, I'm feeling it, and then if I decide, "Oh, I think I'm feeling this because of this," that's me telling my subconscious why? And that's
Yes.
figuring out we want to avoid that. So instead, I just let the feeling come up and let it describe to me why that or where that came from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
I mean,
Okay.
we could do this quickly if you want. We
Yeah,
can
yeah,
do it in
let's
like
do it. I'm
3 minutes.
amazing.
So we want to be fully present and remember that even if we get distracted with trying to figuring it out, then it's okay, right? We always
Okay.
want to remember that we have to be compassionate to ourselves too, right? For anything that we do, we can do something that's so objectively counterproductive, but we have to remember we were trying to do something right. We were trying to do something that was productive. So whatever it is, we want to be compassionate to ourselves too. Okay, so let's I guess what's the first thing that pops to your mind that you would say would be a great thing for us to focus on?
Uh, Coaching. Is that too general?
Coaching. All right, so let's what is one thing that you feel is not um that you're not so comfortable with coaching? What is one thing about coaching, the coaching business or the coaching
Yeah.
idea, not so comfortable
In
with?
in my experience, I know a lot of people who call themselves coaches who I don't feel like have a ton of life experience. And so I'm always kind of like, what are you like at the end of the day, like you're paying the money, right? So it's like,
Hmm.
wait, I'm paying you money. I don't trust that you're legit. Not you
Hmm.
specifically, but like that's the thought I
Yeah, I
have.
get what you're saying. Absolutely. So why not?
Because it feels a little snake oil salesman-y. You know, it's like, oh, I have this thing. I can't describe what it is. And there's no really way for you to vet me until you pay me.
Hmm. What's wrong with that?
Nothing. I just don't like it
Why don't you like it?
because it feels like I'm wasting money. Like it feels like I'm throwing and I'm being sold something that I don't think is valid, and I don't like spending money on things that aren't real.
Hmm. So just to reiterate, just to make sure we're on the same page so far, so you're feeling that if someone is coming to present you with something, in this case coaching, and it's not real, it's not a real, what's it called, bill, not bill of goods, a real you know goods that he's presenting
Yeah,
to you,
yeah.
then you're like, what's the feeling that you get?
Maybe like sleazy, like a
Sleazy. And
little
what's the feeling that
sleazy,
you get?
icky.
Icky. Great.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. So now let's go back, and what is the first time that you can remember having that icky feeling?
Ooh, in my life.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a good question. Um, I don't know.
So right here, this moment is when this is what we're talking about, right? So you
Okay.
want to just sit, be present, and just observe the things happening. Don't decide for yourself, right? Let's
Okay.
just be here, right? So just go back and ask your inner world, what's the first time we had the icky feeling? Just like throw that curiosity in there, like,
Okay.
what was the last first time that we had that?
Nothing's coming up.
Nothing's coming up. That's okay. That's okay. It's really fine. So what we're going to do now is put out another question
Okay.
and ask, is there anyone inside that is not really okay with us learning more about this icky feeling? Like,
Okay.
is there anyone that's blocking the access to this first icky feeling that we had?
Okay. Also, nothing's coming up.
Nothing at all. That's totally fine too. This is very important, right? What I can make an assumption for why this is happening, but I'm not going to do that because that
Okay.
would be unfair to you and all the parts that are inside of you. So what I'm going to do is just say, okay, That's totally fine. We're not ready to learn more about the icky feeling. But what I would say is, if it mattered to you, right? Meaning, if let's say there was, I mean, I could come up with a hypothetical. Let's say there was a coach that approached you, and the coach was like, "Hey, let's work together," and you had that icky feeling, but there was like 25 people telling you, "Hey, you should work with this guy because this guy does know what he's talking about." So it would be
Mm-hmm.
prudent for you to explore where that icky feeling came from, and then
For
just
sure.
validating that icky feeling. Don't tell it, but we have to overrule you. It's just like, hey, we're here just to, learn more about you and learn more about myself as someone that's having this icky feeling regarding this person. But this person is really not the root cause of the icky feeling. They're really just triggering something inside me that's causing that icky feeling to show up and be like, ick, I don't want to deal with
Right.
this person.
Right.
So if you would, I don't know if it's really that important to you, so you might not have to right now. Maybe there's many more pressing things that you would want to address. But if it is, I would say take a few minutes, not in public, and just sit, ponder, and see if anything comes up. And if not, that's okay too, because then it's just not ready yet because it's something really, really deep rooted. So you might
Hmm.
have to uncover layers first, and that would be really, maybe if that would be like a goal for someone, then they'd be like, okay, I want to learn. Let's say I want to work with sleazy coaches, right? I want to work with these coaches that they're not, they don't speak to me. They're just like the sleazy ones, and I just want to learn more about them. So then that's my goal. Then you would have to be like, okay, so what's our path? Ask yourself, meaning I'm not going to make the path for you, but you would ask yourself, what's our path? So then those things would come up, because if you're immediately going deep in the hole, right? So then you're going to have a lot of layers blocking to protect, because these parts, I didn't get into the IFS methodology or the theory because it wasn't relevant then. But the basic premise is, if you got hurt, then these parts are not protecting that hurt self part, the shard that broke off, and
Mm.
you really want to be able to reintegrate it, and then being able to access that icky feeling, but in more socially and culturally appropriate places. I mean, if you think and figure out, I'm sure you could come up with many reasons why you wouldn't want to work with a sleazy coach, right?
For
But
sure.
those are all reinforcements of the reality that you created for yourself in your current state. Those aren't the actual goal oriented reality for yourself. Those are just your current state that you've created and crafted for yourself right now. And it's like, yeah, because they're going to steal my money, because I'm not going to get what I want from them, because, they just rub me wrong, because I just don't like his mustache, because whatever it is, right? Like, whatever it is, I wasn't talking about anyone specific right now, but whoever it is, they, these people just, I don't want to work with them because of the reality that I have. But let's say you had to break out of that reality. Let's say 25 people are telling you you got to work with this guy because this guy is
Mm-hmm.
going to take you from here to here. So then you'd be like, but I don't want to work with the guy. I'm feeling, ick, and now I can't control the ick. And I'm like, every time I speak to the guy, I want to be like, I don't want to speak to you, and I feel like,
Right.
that would be challenging. So
Right.
that's where you might want to address it. So it's really, not really necessarily relevant right now. It was a good experiment to see if we could, dive into a really hard hitting topic for yourself, but it's not necessary. Doesn't really
Yeah.
matter.
No, I'm excited to keep pondering it
Yeah.
and not trying to figure it out. That's it. But I did notice that like my immediate first reaction was to try to figure it out.
Yeah.
And like when you said like when, what's the first time you can remember? I immediately like, yeah, wait, when was that? Like what was that?
Yeah.
Like that was really
With like
interesting.
urgency. It's like,
With
when was
urgency, yeah. And then like you
that?
try to be like, no, like don't try to figure it out, just let it kind of happen. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh, that's different. Like that's a different thing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then if somebody is able to, I mean, we just went to like a deep thing where that just like shone a light for a moment, was like, let's talk about the ick. But if it's something that's like not that's more, settled, where the platform was laid, where we were chatting for a long time and we spoke about, different things, and you felt all these parts that are deep inside felt a little safer with me because you don't know who I am. I just talk your ears off for the last, I don't know how long. Like, you're like, hey, this guy is a funny guy, but I mean, I can't trust him. Like, I don't know the guy, right? So like, there's no reason for you to share. But if, let's say, we built trust and we built rapport and it was like, yeah, we're going to work together, then you maybe would be able to have that voice that's inside you, that ick would be like, I feel ick because, XYZ happened when I
Mm-hmm.
was 9. And then it would be like, wow, that must have been really hard for you, right? We were very validating, very empathetic, compassionate, and it's like, how can I protect you to make sure it doesn't happen again? This is where like the IFS part comes in, but then I walk away from it. That's where it becomes more pragmatic. It's like, we all have a vision. We're all here working together because we want to get to wherever it is that we've decided in advance that makes sense for all of us, meaning all the parts that are inside of us. So how are we going to work our way to get there? And of course, if you want to keep exploring that, it goes down deeper and deeper and deeper. But that's not where I would come in. That was, if you want a therapist, that would come in. But that's the difference to the question that was unasked. Was there's
Right.
therapy and coaching for me? The difference is I I shine lights and I help people to understand more about themselves in order to navigate better. A therapist would really work on all those things and explore deeper, as opposed to just learning more of the lay of the land, let's call it, and learning to navigate the lay of the land that they live in, their inner world. And the therapist will actually start, like, doing road work, construction, right? Like,
Right.
let's fill the potholes and let's dig deeper, and you know what happens when they start doing construction, right? It's like, oh, that's also broken, so now let's rip
The
up the
snowball
whole road.
effect.
Yeah. So but then that's what happens really in your inner world too, because it goes all the way down. The surface level is never the last level.
Right.
It's always just surface level.
Right.
So
It's like you're pulling on a thread,
yeah,
and every time you're like, oh, this is a bigger thread than I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah, and sometimes there's like knots, and it's just like, now we have to untangle the knot, and it's like,
So interesting. So you would define coaching as shining lights, and therapy as more so like looking, once you establish where the potholes are, so to speak, to trying to repair those potholes.
yeah, therapy is like driving school.
Interesting.
Like, yeah, you're learning to navigate the lay of your land, and you have a direction, right? You're aiming, as when a client starts with a coach, like, what do you want to accomplish, right? And it's usually a performance based thing, or it's usually, I want my life to be different in X, Y, and Z sort of way. So it's like, okay, so we're going to get there, and the way you get there is by learning your potholes and then accelerating through by taking driving courses and like learning how to navigate. And a therapist will take a lot longer to get there, because a therapist, like, wait, hold up. I mean, a good therapist won't do that. The good therapist will be like, okay, would you like to address this now? And invariably, it's like, yeah, I mean, I would love to, like, sure. And then it's like, okay, so let's start. Tell me more. And suddenly you're like at a crawl. You will get there. But
Right.
what you might be able to do, and on the flip side, a coach can't fix things. A coach is not, person's not going to walk away from a coach and be like, I'm resolved. Like, that's not going to happen either. I mean, unless the coach is incredible and really is a therapist and brings a lot of solution-oriented therapy into it, and I mean, the person has to be super present, like super present, and both people have to be super present. I'm like trying to come up with a framework for how this might work, but both people have to be super present and understanding of the objectives, right? The objectives have to be twofold. It's performance based and addressing the challenges that are coming up in a more systematic and prescriptive way, and learning, right? And that would potentially, I'm sure there are people out there, I'm sure there are therapists that are great coaches at the same time, and there are coaches that are good therapists at the same time, for sure. But I would say, in a for, like, a heuristic, or if you want to just be like, a generalization, that would be the difference.
And what are some examples of, like, when you start with a new client and you say like, hey, what's your goal? Like, what do you want to get out of this? Are there commonalities between answers? Like, what are clients saying that they're trying to get out of?
Yes. There's the way that it's being there's the presentation, and then there's the underlying. So the underlying is always the presentation has a lot of commonalities. It depends on if the person is the integrator or the visionary, right? If, let's say, the person is very systematic and thought out. So a lot of times they're going to be like, I feel stuck. I feel like I know exactly, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. It's just not working anymore. I've accomplished, I've become a COO or a, VP or whatever it is, or an entrepreneur. I've built my business into a small business or a medium business, and like I'm just stuck, or things are just not. I know what I need to do, it's just not working. Whatever I was doing isn't working anymore. I want to have more time for my family because I'm always at work. Things like that,
Yep.
where it's like people that are super one track minded, productive, planned out, thought out, and it's just not working anymore. That's the basic presentation. And then the underlying is always different because everybody comes into there from their own experiences. And then it's like, okay, so then we ask why, and we want to learn more, and we want to be curious. And everybody just, presents and differently on the underlying. And then on the other hand, you'll have someone that's like, I'm totally overwhelmed because I just have 17 million tasks that I just can't get to, and whatever. That's the other side, right? So then that it's very typical. Like we like to think that we're very unique, but we are all very similar, but not on the underlying. Like I said, underlying, it's like my life is different than your life. And
For sure.
that makes a world of a difference.
For sure.
We'll go through the same problems, right?
For sure. Yeah.
I'm going to have an employee that I'm nervous to talk to. I'm going to have a project that's just, 3 people are pulling their weight. I'm pulling their weight for them. And it's just super stressful. I need to raise money. I'm scared to speak to the people that I need to raise money from. I need to make a pitch deck, and I'm just sitting here looking at the screen and watching YouTube. Like, whatever it is that, like, what I need to do and what I know I need to do. And on the other hand, you have, like I have 14,000 emails in my inbox that I have to get to. Like, whatever it is, people, it's like
the presentation is the same, but the underlying is could be very different.
Very different. Yeah. And you'll never have 2 people that are the same. And a trap that maybe someone might fall into when they're coming in with solutions is like, well, this worked for me, of course it should work for you. But that's not. It's like, it's not going to work for me, because what you're saying is just invalidating, because my underlying is different. My energy that I'm coming here, and you're coming with your energy of, this is me, and this is why you have to be like me. And it's like, but I don't want to be like you. I mean, that's the energies talking, right?
Right.
Like, I don't want to be you. I want to be me. And then, so the job of a coach really is not to teach the client how to be the coach. It's to teach the client tools and tactics and mindsets that the coach has learned to work with their underlying challenges, and then the other person will be able to do the work for themselves on their underlying challenges. And that's also why every coach will work differently with a different client. Some clients just won't work well. Like you said, like, I know people, and I'm saying this completely honestly and authentically, I know people that love those sleazy type of coaches. And they're like, I can't get enough of those people, right? Like, I love them. They're fantastic. I just want to be talked like to me like that. It's awesome. And I get where you're coming from. I'm like, I just don't feel comfortable, like when they talk like that. It's hard to even pinpoint what it is, but it's just something, right?
Right.
And I know people that are just like, this is awesome, because the underlying, that coach's underlying, or that coach's experience is resonating with their experience. And it's like, we mesh. And every coach, it's like a marriage. It's like a coach, it's like a therapist, the same. They did studies. The biggest indicator for success between a therapist and a client was rapport. It wasn't the modality. It was rapport. And it's the same thing with coaches.
Right. So, okay, it's a perfect kind of segue into what I want to ask you next is, if someone has identified that they want to start coaching, they want to start participating in coaching, what's the first step? Where do you go to find one? How do you vet them? How do you know what's legit and what's not? If someone feels similar to me that, they don't have like the best feeling when it comes to it. So what's a good way to start the process?
It's a great question. And the funny thing is that if you open up your eyes and ears with that decision being, I want to start getting coached, you will just start being overloaded with so many coaches that are just like banging down your door. It's like, work with me, work with me, work with me. They're not saying those words. They're saying, I'm giving you value with this, and I'm giving you value with that. And look at the value that I'm giving you. And let me tell you how I relate with you. And however the new branding and, that it's being given over, you're going to just be overloaded. And you'll regret that choice first. And then after you've come full circle, you're like, yeah, but I really need help right now to like get past whatever it is. You would really just talk to them like they want to talk to you, right? Any coach, someone calls me, I'm like, I love to talk to you. You want to be a client? Absolutely. I'd love to learn more about you to see if we work well together. And every coach will do that. And then see which one really resonates with you the most. And you want to really let it be on a subconscious level. You'll have some coaches that will talk your ear off, right? They will be like, this is what I do, and this is how I do it, and this is how you're going to have to do it, and this is how we're going to do it together, and you're going to do that. And it's like, some people is like, that's great. I want to be told what to do. Now, without any judgment, again, I'm just observing and reporting, they are not going to get to where they really want to go. They're gonna grow, because anyone that wants to grow and is getting guidance on how to grow will probably grow, unless they're getting completely misdirected by a coach, which is possible. But if they resonate with you in some way, then you'll grow. Now, how much? You might need to go to the next coach later and be like, pay them a little more money, or maybe take 2 introductory sessions to learn more about them to see if that works better for you, or whatever it is that is the barometer for what will be successful for you and more successful for you. Then you'll know. You'll just know. And and it's very intuitive. And if you don't know, then ask. Like, there is no reason that you can't ask a coach something, right? When you're having that consultation and you're speaking with the coach and you're like, this is my challenge, and the coach is like, okay, let's talk about it, and suddenly you're feeling uneasy about something. Say, I'm feeling a little uneasy about X, Y, and Z. Just put it out there. If the coach is a good coach, meaning if the person will work well with you, then they will address it, and you will feel reassured, and you will feel comforted, and you'll feel their compassion and their connectiveness. If the person, I've spoken with someone that, and I was actually like blown away. The whole conversation was super nice. It was really nice. And then I said something like, I'm uncomfortable with something. I said that. And the person started actually insulting me. He's like, well, if you feel like that, then you're not fully, able to comprehend, or something or other, and the other thing. And I was just like, wow.
Whoa.
I mean, thank you for telling me this now before I paid you anything.
Right.
And now I know this conversation is not going to go anywhere, and we ended the conversation pretty quickly. But that you'll be shocked by what people will say when you're just being very open and vulnerable. If they hurt you, they're going to hurt you again. They're not going to just suddenly not hurt you. So, and you don't have to give them 7 chances. I mean, you don't know the person. If it's a coach that, with my therapist, I'm working with my therapist 6 years. I'll sit there and he'll say something and I'll be like, no, right now what you're doing is not actually beneficial for what we're trying to accomplish here. And he's going to be like, yeah, you might be right. Okay, let's go a different way. And we're just very open like that, because we've had
because you have rapport. Right.
Rapport. But if it's your first introductory session and some guy or gal just lays down the hammer on you, and you're just like, I just feel so unsafe right now. Like, I'm vulnerable here. I want to grow. I want to become a better person. I want to go from here to here. I want to transcend my reality. I want to break whatever it is that I'm doing. I want to break things. And this person's coming here and breaking me. Like, that's not fun. Like, you don't have to do that. It's not necessary. Don't feel like, oh, I'm in the call, so like now I owe them. You don't owe anyone anything. You owe it to yourself to be the best person you could be. Obviously, don't be rude. I mean, you could be if they're really being hurtful, but like, don't be like rude back and be like, well, you're stupid. Like, just be like, oh, wow, thank you for sharing. And then like end the call and say, no, thanks. I'm good.
Yeah. So to recap, put it out into your network that this is something you're interested in doing. You will be amazed at how overwhelmed you will be with
Oh
inbound
yeah.
coaches reaching out to you, and just have consultations with them. So take a couple minutes and just chat with as many as you can, and get a sense, feel how your body feels and how you're intuiting their energy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That
And I love
nowadays,
that.
yeah, nowadays you don't even have to necessarily meet with them, for 30 minutes or whatever it is that people will say for the consultation. There's so much content out there. Like, just go on their LinkedIn, see what they're posting. Are they posting things
Mm,
that resonate with you, or are they posting things that are above you, below you? Like, you are where you are, right?
mm-hmm.
If you have a guy that's an expert on, I don't know, tax, I don't know what. And he's just throwing out, words and phrases that, like, you didn't read the tax code, so you don't know what he's talking about. So it's like, I don't want him to teach me things because I don't know what he's talking about. Would I want him to do my taxes? Probably.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
would I want him to teach me how to do taxes? Not quite yet. First, I need to learn
Right,
more.
right,
So, or if you're very ambitious, speak to the guy. You don't have to
right,
lose. If the guy knows how to make it simpler for you and explain things to you and bring you up, like drag you really quickly up to the level that they're at, it's like, now I'm seeing things from a whole new perspective, and it's like, wow, this is fantastic. That's possible too. It's all really about presence and connectiveness, and the level of, rapport that you have. Of course,
right.
it's, I guess, it depends, and it just depends on how you, I went back in a circle, but how you feel and how you have a rapport with the people. But definitely see how how you feel. It's important.
Okay, man, I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. Well, where can people find more about you? So if they want to learn more about you or your practice, where should they go?
So they can check me out on LinkedIn. It's Dovid Azerad on LinkedIn. I have a website. It's nextarc.co.
Okay.
That's nextarc.co. And that's in light of, as I mentioned, people that are really trying to get to the next arc of their career, of their life, of their journey. That's what I love. I love helping people. You want to just chat for any reason, just reach out. I love chatting with people always, regardless of whether we work together or not. So reach out, chat. Jeff, anytime you want to chat again, always happy to do that. And Yeah, I would say those are the two ways that would be to learn more about me.
Amazing. And yeah, we'll link to both your LinkedIn profile and your website in the show notes. And man, thank you so much for being on here, man. I really appreciate it. I
I
really
really
appreciate you.
appreciate you being on, and I appreciate you giving me a lot of time to speak. I I'm being honest, I don't really talk so much, but you ask good questions. You asked the short questions. That's what you did in the beginning. Just had the short questions, and then just like press play, and it's just like, go. You didn't interrupt too much. You're just like, yeah, just let this guy just vomit out whatever he knows and see what happens. But I
Well,
appreciate that, and I hope people learn. That's important.
yeah, 100%. I think they did. And yeah, I can't wait to see what the next phase is and to keep following your journey.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And you as well.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Bye, everybody.